The cook decided to attack pot pie with the very same strategy as the broccoli. Leftover chicken would be the core ingredient along with vegetables. Since he was pressed for time, he'd use a frozen medley he kept on hand, augmented with fresh onions and his very favorite aromatic of all, celery. These he would saute in just a wee tiny bit of canola oil. As for the binder, he would pass on the canned soup and make a roux out of flour and butter. After cooking this with the sautéed vegetables, he would add chicken broth, low sodium, and finally, for richness and flavor, milk. How wholesome. Seasoning would come, of course, from salt and pepper, but then he would invite some unusual guests to the party: curry powder and dried parsley flake. Last but not least, the entirety would be lidded with puff pastry. The cook heated a sauté pan over medium heat and then sweated both the celery and the onions in the canola oil. Since it was a sweat, he went ahead and added the salt to help pull flavor and moisture out of the vegetables. He stirred then until they were soft. Then, pushing them off to the side, he added 2 tablespoons of butter to the middle of the pan, along with the flour and the curry powder. Curious. These he stirred together until smooth, allowing it to cook to flavor. He then roasted the veg medley in the oven and heated the broth and milk in a microwave to get it close to boiling. That way, the sauce would come together much quicker. Clever chap, sometimes. After pouring the broth in, he allowed it to come to a boil, which took about a minute. During this time, the flour starch would gelatinize, thickening the sauce. Then, the vegetables, now nicely roasted, were added to the sauce. Smells good, doesn't it? Aren't you forgetting something? That's right, the chicken, smart guy. What are you eating? Just as I thought. Now, put all that in there. What's left? Excellent. Now, with the chicken stirred in, it was time to move to the casserole. This time, he was using one of his newfangled terracotta casseroles, lined carefully with a layer of heavy-duty aluminum foil. As with the broccoli casserole, he was careful to pack the mixture down so as to not trap air inside. Then it was time for the crust. But remembering the tough, hard-to-cut crust at the church, the cook decided to do the cutting in advance. He carefully opened the still stiff dough and, using his fingers, sealed the seams so that they would not fall apart during rolling. He then decided to utilize a fork to perforate or dock the dough. This would allow excess steam to exit the dough, preventing it from puffing abnormally in the oven. As for the cutting itself, he reached for a standard biscuit cutter. One must remember, when cutting puff pastry, it is crucial that you push the cutter straight down all the way and then twist. Otherwise, you could squeeze or pinch the layers of puff pastry together, rendering them unpuffable. The rest of the dough would be saved for another occasion. The cook then spaced the rounds out on the casserole with about a half an inch, it seems, between them so that they would not fuse together during the baking process. Very, very clever. Very nice indeed, although he does have a few touching. Since a lid would capture steam, thus interrupting the puffing of the puff pastry, he placed the casserole uncovered in a 350-degree oven. After 45 minutes, the casserole was cooked, and the rounds on top golden, brown, and delicious. Of course, cooling is crucial to a pot pie too. As it cooled, the sauce inside created a scoopable rather than spoonable filling.